Hello and welcome to Edinburgh Skeptics Lockdown. My name's Heather and we're here tonight with Tracey Jolliffe for In Goop Health. And if you have any questions for us tonight, you can either ask them in the YouTube comment section or get them on Twitter, or you can email us at lockdown@edinskeptics.com. Welcome to our online shows. We'll be doing these for the time being. Two of the committee are in shielding, so we're not going to a pub even if they're open anytime soon. So we're not going to be holding any live events until at least September. So we'll be online until then. We've not got anyone booked for 2 weeks' time, but we will. So keep an eye out on. But for tonight, I'm going to hand you over to the ever elegant, funny and amazing Tracey. Thank you very much. You need to unmute Tracey. Unmute Tracey.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, cool. Sorry about that little technical hitch. Well, thank you very much to Heather, and thank you to Edinburgh Skeptics for inviting me to do this talk. I hope you're all keeping well and staying safe, and thank you all for tuning in. So this talk was supposed to be getting done at the Edinburgh Festival, but thanks to coronavirus, that is no longer going ahead. So we're going to try it online instead. Now, when I was asked to do a yes. Oh, how am I getting rid of it? Get rid of you. There we go. Okay, so when I was asked to do this talk, what I really wanted to call it was why your vagina shouldn't smell like a scented candle. And I'm sure most of you out there are aware of this product that Gwyneth Paltrow sells on her Goop website. But if you're not, don't worry, we will talk about it later. I have also given this talk to Glasgow Skeptics and also to Teesside Skeptics. So here's Gwyneth Paltrow. Well, she is primarily an actress. I believe she's the daughter of somebody famous. I don't know who that is. And she kind of divides opinion. Some people love her, some people hate her. In 2013, she was voted People Magazine's Youth Woman. Also in 2013, she was voted Celebrity. So definitely a British Marmite. Ironically, when I did do it, I really have so started in 2000. Yes, Okay. Hello. Yeah, we seem to be having a few technical issues. Hopefully this is a little bit better now. So the Goop website is split into two halves. So you've got the magazine style, which has got lots of articles, as you can see along the top there, shop, beauty, food, style, travel, wellness, work, and men. But the main part of Gwyneth Paltrow's website is definitely the sales, and we'll talk about that in a moment. She really did start to monetize this quite quickly after she set up the website. But it wasn't until 2014 where she employed the previous CEO of the Martha Stewart website that things started to get really heavily into the woo. Incidentally, the name Goop doesn't mean anything. Somebody told her that in order to have a successful internet brand, you needed to have a double O in the name. So she just put a double O in the middle of her initials, and hey presto, this was Goop. Initially, she was based in the UK, and then when she had her conscious uncoupling from Chris Martin, she moved the whole operation to California. And there's about 80 people that work for her now, so it's a reasonable sized company. So the first page I clicked on was beauty, and immediately my hackles were up. As you can see here, I have highlighted the word clean, and this is dotted about liberally on her website. She is very much into clean this and clean that. And I'll discuss a little bit later why it offends me so much. But just starting off with beauty, she says here that the personal care industry is effectively unregulated, and that people use toxic ingredients, including known carcinogens and endocrine disruptors. Now, that is absolute nonsense. In terms of legality, cosmetics cover a whole range of things. It doesn't just cover what we think of as cosmetics in terms of makeup. It covers everything that you put on to your body. So shampoo, shower gel, soap, moisturizers, things like that. And there are very, very strict regulations about what you can and can't put into products like this. The FDA, the US Food and Drug Administration, has very strict manufacturing practices. And the international standards, which covers America and Europe, again, very, very strict regulations. So to say that there's endocrine disruptors and toxic substances in, the vast majority of these products is just absolute nonsense. That is illegal and has been for many, many years. So right from the word go, she was irritating me. Now, if you click onto food, again, clean lunches. And this is where I think it really bothers me, because this clean eating thing is really, it's quite a new phenomenon. And I'm all for eating healthily. And I'm sure it started off with good intentions. We should all be eating more plant-based foods, lots of whole grains, lots of fruit and veg, everything else in moderation. And that's fine. But it's turned almost into a cult-like status to have clean eating. And of course, the implication is if you're not following their diet, that what you're eating is impure or unclean in some way. And we shouldn't be doing this with food. We have enough people, especially young people nowadays, who have eating disorders, and we're food shaming them, and we shouldn't be doing that. And it's all based on very bad science, I guess. A lot of these diets are very, very restrictive, and they talk about things like going sugar-free, but their sugar-free recipes will have agave sugar in or honey. And as far as your body's concerned, that's just sugar. They don't care whether it's from a cane or a cactus. Sugar is sugar. Or coconut oil. That's the one that really upsets me at the moment. Coconut oil is not good for you. It's full of saturated fats. You're much better off with something like olive oil or rapeseed oil. But they're dressing it all up as science, and it's not. It's pseudoscience. But then it gets into quite dangerous territory where it's talking about things, diets that will boost your immune system. And this one is supposed to stop you getting flu. Obviously, this was before COVID. I'm sure if I looked on our website now, should be discussing that as well. There is nothing that you can eat that is going to boost your immune system. There are only two situations in your entire life where boosting your immune system is a good idea. One of them is if you're having a vaccination, and the whole point of a vaccination is to boost your immune system, but in a very specific way. or that very small percentage of children that are born without a functioning immune system, and they will be given drugs to boost their immune system. Everything else, if you boost your immune system in any way, is going to cause you to have autoimmune disorders. So you really don't want to be boosting your immune system. Now, style, I didn't think I could get offended with the style. And again, clean comes into it. First page I clicked on. Clean sleep to me is just, you know, putting a damp dust around your bedroom before you go to bed. But no, according to her, mattresses are giving off harmful chemicals that disrupt your endocrine system. And you can buy a baby crib mattress. I don't know if you can see the price very clearly. It's $1,249. You know, and if you want to spend your money on that, that's fine. But an ordinary mattress that you can buy on the high street is not going to disrupt your endocrine system at all. And she doesn't just sell household products, she sells clothes. And I was absolutely astounded that anyone could even consider spending £918 on a pair of denim shorts, regardless of how downright adorable they are. But you know what? If you've got that sort of money and that's what you want to spend it on, then that's fine. You know, you go ahead and do that. The travel section was everything I imagined it to be. They are promoting every type of woo and pseudoscientific treatments that you can imagine. I just picked a few of them here. This one is in Bali, and it's a sightless healer who will use her heightened sense of touch to offer relief from a large range of emotional and physical issues. Goodness knows how she's doing that, but apparently she can. Or you could go to Mexico and be treated by a shaman, kaftan-clad shaman nonetheless. Or if you want to stay a little bit closer to home, you can go to downtown New York and go to a crystal healing place and get your chakras aligned. Interestingly, there's no prices on any of these, and I'm guessing it's one of those situations where if you need to ask the price, you're not going to be able to afford it. But again, you know, if that's what you want to spend your money on, then that's fine. Now, this started off quite well, the work section. Gwyneth claims to be very pro-women, very feminist, and there are some very good articles there. You know, she talks about female empowerment, women in management, sexism in the workplace, equal rights, equal pay, and all of that is absolutely great. I'm all for it. But of course, being the Goop website, it descends very quickly into woo. I couldn't even bring myself to read this article on detoxing the workplace, but I'm guessing it's going to be more along the lines of endocrine disrupting chemicals in your stapler or something. Who knows? Now, men, if you thought you'd got away with this, don't you worry your pretty little heads about it, because there is a whole section just for the boys. I quite like the name, actually, Goop Fellas. That did make me giggle. So again, like all of her web pages, starts off with some very good articles, diagnosing and treating prostate cancer. It's written by an actual proper doctor, a urological surgeon. So that's great. That's all about how these things are diagnosed and treated. Great. That's absolutely fantastic. But no surprise, 5 crystals for masculine energy. Now, when I gave this talk down at Teesside, I asked for a show of hands of all the men in the room who used crystals to harness their masculine energy. And there's always one smart ass who puts his hand up at the back. But I just pointed out the shape of these crystals and asked him how he actually used them. He wasn't too keen to chat about it then. Now, where Gwyneth goes from harmless nonsense into full-on pseudoscientific overdrive is in the wellness section. Now, as you can see there, you've got some things that are pretty harmless. So fitness, that was fine. No problem with encouraging people to get healthy and get fit. Food and the planet, apart from the clean eating aspect, it was okay. You know, the planet section was all about saving the environment, single-use plastics. Great, very happy with that. And we don't have time to cover it all, so I'm just going to look at a couple of the sections. Interestingly, when I clicked onto wellness, this page came up, and there was an article here called Understanding Numerology, because it's not an exact science. Who'd have guessed it? And then quite a nice little juxtaposition here with an article on how to interpret scientific studies. And again, the irony meter went completely off the scale for that one. Now, detox. I'm sure you've all come across this in, well, quite honestly, any magazine, any chemist, any kind of health food store you go into. And no surprise that her website is absolutely full of detox articles and detox products. Now, is detox a real thing? Well, yes and no. In terms of the medical definition of detoxing, there is a procedure that you can undergo. So if somebody was unlucky enough to ingest some kind of heavy metal that your body can't get rid of, and that is going to be toxic and do some serious damage, then you can take something called a chelating agent, and this will bind all of the heavy metal and allow it to be passed out of your body as harmlessly as possible. And it's something that used to happen maybe sort of 1940s, 1950s, when it was quite common to have lead paint. And if you painted a baby's crib with lead paint and they were chewing on the paint, then they would ingest all of this lead, and that was an actual thing. I understand it's a very unpleasant treatment to take, and it's not something that a doctor would do lightly. But in terms of detoxing, that's it. That's the only actual definition of detoxing that science and medicine recognizes. So the rest of it is all utter nonsense. And just one page came across all of these things. She sells a lot of supplements for detoxing. Detoxing with food you eat, again, absolute nonsense. But this is interesting. There's a lot of promotion, and not just Gwyneth Paltrow, to give her a due, about fasting diets. So you can do fasting, you can do detox diets. And a few people have said to me that they do these on a regular basis and it does make them feel better. So they think they're detoxing. But you usually find that people do a detox diet after they've overindulged. So say somebody has had a 2-week period over Christmas and New Year, and they've eaten lots of unhealthy food, they've drunk too much, they've stayed up late partying, and they've generally abused their body, and they will feel terrible. So they go on a detox for a week. Now, detoxing in terms of these diets that they're selling you, it's just eating healthily and not abusing your body. So, you know, you'll be eating lots of fresh fruit and veg, you'll be drinking lots of water, getting plenty of sleep. The vitamin supplements they're going to sell you aren't going to be doing anything, but they're not going to be doing you any harm. So if you do that for a couple of weeks, you are going to feel better. You're going to feel fantastic. But it's not because your body has detoxed. It's because you've stopped abusing your body. And that's what you're supposed to feel like. You're not supposed to wake up every morning feeling terrible. And your body has ways of detoxing itself. If you have a liver and if you have at least one functioning kidney, then you don't need to do anything to detox. And the thing I always say to people is, if somebody tries to sell them, if you're in Holland and Barrett or some other store and somebody tries to sell you a detox product, ask them 2 questions. Ask them what substance they are supposedly detoxing you of. So name one of these toxins, and they can't because there isn't any. And secondly, what the mechanism is that the product that they are going to sell you is going to remove your body of the substance. And they won't be able to answer either of those questions. So it's just absolute nonsense. So yeah, just eat well, limit your alcohol, get enough sleep, and you won't need to do any detoxing. So I decided to look more specifically at one of her products. And I picked this one because it sounded very scientific, Goop Genes. It's a marine collagen soup powder. And as you can see here, it's got these very scientific looking molecular structure models on the front of the packaging. So I decided to look in more detail at this, and it is supposed to support the appearance of smooth, firm, hydrated skin from the inside out, using a combination of collagen, ceramides, and astaxanthin. Now, you can see here on her webpage, we have these little asterisks here. And if you go to the bottom in tiny, tiny writing, it will say these statements have not been evaluated by the FDA, and the product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. So straight away, she's making these claims, and then she's denying that these claims have got any basis whatsoever. So I thought, right, let's see what's in this product. So marine collagen, had a look at that. Marine collagen is a protein. That's all collagen is. And marine collagen is a waste product of the fishing industry. And it's usually derived from fish skin. So when the fish is being processed for us to eat, they then mash up the skin and extract the collagen from it. And that's all it is. If you take it as a dietary supplement, it is broken down in your stomach. The stomach acid does its job because it just sees it as a protein. So I doubt that any of that is actually going to get to your skin. Now, ceramides are a family of waxy, fatty substances that actually form part of your skin cells, in fact, all of the cells in your body. And there is a little bit of evidence that I could find regarding applications of ceramide with people who've got very severe psoriasis. And it does, if it's applied topically, seem to have a little bit of benefit. But in terms of taking it as a supplement, again, it's fat and your body is just going to break it down before it gets anywhere near your skin. So neither of those things are really going to help you at all. Now, astaxanthin, I had never heard of. And when I looked in terms of claims for medicinal benefits or beauty benefits, I couldn't find any. And I did a little bit more reading around and I discovered that it is a thing and it is a marine supplement, but it's a food coloring. So it is, it's a pigment from fish and algae. And it is an E number, so it's E161J for anyone who's interested. And it is licensed by the FDA simply as a food coloring. And it is most commonly used in fish food. So if you buy farmed salmon or farmed shrimps and prawns, and they have that really bright orangey pink color, that's astaxanthin. And that is all it is licensed for. Nobody has ever made any claims that it has any kind of benefit for your skin or otherwise. So basically there you're just buying a pink drink that's got a little bit of protein and a little bit of fat in it. Now, again, if that's what you want to spend your money on, that's fine. Apparently it's flavored with vanilla and tastes a little bit like birthday cake. But at £85 a packet, I think you could probably spend your money on something a little bit better. Now, she has a whole section on sexual health, and the articles are all fine. Articles reviewing sex books, articles on the menopause, discussions with sex therapists. Absolutely fine. I'm all for that. You know, people should have healthy, happy sex lives. Don't have a problem with that. Not so sure about the astrological roadmap to sex. I'm guessing it's not like an actual roadmap with dogging sites on it or anything like that. So yeah, not too sure about that one. But the rest of it, you know, that's fine. I'm happy with that. But being Gwyneth Paltrow, she does sell an awful lot of stuff that goes with it. There's no explanation actually as to why these have the names. I'm not sure why this is called the tennis coach or this is the fireman. I did get quite excited by the idea of a millionaire vibrator because I thought it was going to come coated with caramel and chocolate, but sadly it doesn't. But of course, again, being Gwyneth Paltrow, she has to go to the nth degree of everything. And you can, for the grand price of $3,490, buy the Olga. And the Olga, quite frankly, isn't even a vibrator. It's just a dildo. So it's just a lump of stainless steel coated in 24-karat gold. So think about it carefully before you go ahead and buy this. It's only available in America. And I did check the returns policy and it is non-refundable. So once you've spent your £3,500, you're stuck with it, whether you like it or not. But again, if that's what you want to spend your money on, go ahead. Now, coming into the more controversial products that she sells, I'm sure a lot of people will be aware of the jade egg controversy. Now, this was what really got Gwyneth Paltrow and the Goop website into the news. Now, the original advert for this, which has been taken down, and we'll talk about that in a moment, claimed it would cleanse your negative energy, it would harmonize your hormones, help you with infertility, regulate your menstrual cycles, and prevent uterine prolapse. Now, they are some pretty serious medical claims. And she's claimed it was a strictly guarded secret of Chinese concubines. Now, the website doesn't say that anymore. The website just talks about using it for Kegel exercises, which is what ladies use to strengthen their pelvic floor. And there are some instructions there on how to wash it and how to clean. I won't say sterilize, because putting something in hot water is not going to sterilize it, but clean it, because jade is porous and it will absorb bacteria, and it will absorb any bacteria that's on your hands or in the surrounding area, and it's going to hold on to that. And it can cause localized infections. It cause toxic shock syndrome, and something like that can actually go on and cause sepsis and be very, very serious condition. So I think if you want to use something for pelvic floor exercises, there are things out there that your doctor can give you that's going to be a lot less potentially harmful. Now, this caused controversy because in America, a group of attorneys got together in California and decided that she was making false medical claims. So they took her to court. And it was specifically about these jade vaginal eggs. And she'd settled just out of court just before the court case. And she had to pay $145,000. She had to refund the money from everybody who bought one of these. She had to remove all the medical claims that she was making. And she had to then employ a scientific fact checker. However, there's an organization in America called Truth in Advertising, which is a charity very similar to our Good Thinking Society, who have asked for the case to be reopened because they say that all these false claims are creeping back in. So they want to take her back to court. So it seems that she's just not learning a lesson. And recently we have had the vaginal steaming issue. Now, again, this is something that Gwyneth Paltrow didn't invent, but she's really, really pushed it. And this, I will say as a disclaimer, this is not something she sells on her website. This is something I just got off the internet to illustrate what you do. And essentially, there's this small wooden stool with a hole in the middle, and then you put a pan of boiling water with various herbs in, and it cleanses your uterus, allegedly. And as I say, she didn't invent this, but she sure as hell made it mainstream. And she talks about empowering women and giving women control over their bodies and over their feminine health. But this, when I did a little bit of research, was actually invented hundreds and hundreds of years ago, in the days when all the doctors were male. And back in the day, male doctors thought that all of the female ailments came from the fact that women's uterus would wander around their body. And the whole point of vaginal steaming was to try and coax the uterus back into its rightful place. Obviously, that is absolute nonsense. But because she's been promoting it, you know, people have really taken this on board. And there's a lot of women out there who are too embarrassed to go to their doctors who are using these things to try and cure themselves. And there was recently a case of a 62-year-old woman who got second-degree burns from using this. She had a prolapse uterus, and she tried to cure it herself by using it. So, you know, it really, people are harming themselves. They really are. And if you've got a problem, you need to go and see a doctor, not listen to Gwyneth Paltrow. Now, going back to the title of the talk, I will give Gwyneth Paltrow one thing. She is a master of self-promotion. So a year or so ago, she came up with this product, which when I first saw it, I thought was a spoof. I didn't think it was an actual thing, but it turns out it is an actual thing. So there is a candle that she sells called This Smells Like My Vagina. Now, I don't know Gwyneth Paltrow. I don't know if her vagina smells of geranium and roses. Mine doesn't. And vaginas are not supposed to smell of geranium and damask rose. Maybe hers does, I don't know, but maybe her house smells like vaginas. Who knows? I've never actually found one of these candles for sale in the UK. And it is just, you know, it's an absolute genius of marketing, absolutely. But you can imagine Twitter went absolutely crazy when this came out. And I didn't know that lesbian Twitter was a thing, but apparently it is. And lesbian Twitter went crazy for this. And I've only just put a couple of things up here that I actually could actually cut and paste. This lady said, it makes me want to pick an ice pick in my skull. This woman, not one single vulva smells like fucking geraniums. Absolutely right. I agree with her on that. So yeah, if you want to go to Twitter and have a look, that is absolutely fantastic. And of course, it then spawned a whole raft of fake and spoof adverts, which I thought the original one was. So this is the Poundland version. And this one is lovely. I think Perspiration Inspiration is my favorite there. So again, they're all out there on Twitter and various platforms. So go and have a look at them. They are very, very good. And of course, boys, we're not going to leave you out of this as well, though there smells like a load of old bollocks just for the boys. Maybe this is why Chris Martin went. Who knows? And then this lady, and sadly this is an American product, and she didn't sell to the UK, because I would have bought one of these. She actually brought out a candle called "This Candle Doesn't Smell Like Anyone's Vagina," which is just wonderful. And here it's infused with roses and nonsense. And I really wanted to buy one of those, but as I say, she didn't sell outside of the USA, which is a shame. So Gwyneth Paltrow, she is very focused on vaginas and female health. And should you be taking advice from her? Well, no, I don't think she should. She's suggesting you steam it, jade eggs, but she turns out doesn't know what a vagina is. Now, recently she brought out a Netflix series called The GOOP Lab. I don't have Netflix, and I certainly wasn't going to pay to watch this, but I read reviews from people whose opinions I trust. One of them, one of the episodes was focused on female health. And she was discussing her vagina with a sex therapist. And she was chatting away to this lady. And then this woman leans forward and says, "You don't really seem to know what the vagina is." She was referring to her vulva, but she was talking about it in terms of the vagina. So, you know, I love the quote there. It's almost as though she didn't have any idea what she was talking about. And it turns out she doesn't. So for all of you people out there, and I have met women who don't know the difference between a vulva and a vagina. So the bit of your genitals outside your body that you can see is called the vulva. The bit inside is called the vagina. That is a vulva. This is a vagina. The only person that can see your vagina is a gynecologist with a speculum and a strong light. So if anyone claims to be able to see somebody else's vagina, they're talking rubbish. And this is just a slight aside. This has got nothing to do with Gwyneth Paltrow, but it just, when I was writing this, it made me think about it. About a year or so ago, there was an artist called Laura Dodsworth, and she is a photographer, and she's very interested in body image and body positivity. So she has, over the last few years, done a series of studies. I think the first one she did was on penises. So she took photographs of 100 penises and then interviewed the men, or the owners of those penises, all about how they view their bodies. And then she did one the following year on breasts. So again, 100 breasts, interviewed the women. And they're really interesting pieces of work. And you know, if you get the chance, go and have a look at it, because it is very interesting how people perceive their own bodies. Then last year she did one on vulvas, and this was advertised in The Guardian. And, you know, portraits of 100 vulvas. And then this man here, Paul Bollen, who has got, as far as I'm aware, no medical or anatomical training whatsoever, decided to correct The Guardian and say the correct word is vagina. Now, as you can imagine, the whole weight of Twitter came down upon him. People were correcting him, women were correcting him, doctors were correcting him, gynecologists were correcting him, and he would not back down. He was absolutely adamant the correct word for what you can see is the vagina, not the vulva. And then somebody said, "Thanks for mansplaining it." And he then went on to mansplain the word mansplain, which was just, it was like, you know, sort of crazy squared. And again, that's probably still out there on Twitter, so it's well worth going and having a look and just seeing how appallingly behaved one man can be. So going back to her, the Advertising Standards Authority, in the UK, she has now been reported to the British regulators by the Good Thinking Society, which is a charity. I'm sure you all know Marsh, who works for it. and they have reported her to the British regulators, to the National Trading Standards Authority and the Advertising Standards. And I think they're claiming there's over 100 things on her website that are false or untrue or misleading. And she promotes some really dangerous stuff. It's not just, you know, supplements that aren't going to do anything. She promotes a doctor who is an HIV denialist. She promotes another doctor who regularly writes on the idea that underwire bras cause breast cancer. Now, this was an idea that came out years and years ago before we really understood what was causing breast cancer. And there is actually a correlation between wearing an underwire bra and your risk of getting breast cancer. It does, you know, you do have a higher risk of women who don't wear underwire bras. Now, when you look at that immediately, you think, oh, underwire bras are causing breast cancer. But of course, it was just a confounding factor, and it was just masking the real cause, which is being overweight. Now, if you wear an underwire bra, chances are you've got larger breasts. And if you've got larger breasts, chances are you're overweight. And that's where the risk factor comes in. But there's still this doctor that she's promoting who has completely ignored the fact that this was debunked years ago and is still claiming that people shouldn't be wearing underwire bras. So that's the kind of nonsense that she is pushing. And as I said, the Good Thinking Society have reported her for breaching 113 UK advertising laws. And she's been written about in lots of different magazines and papers, you know, highlighting the things that she is doing that are potentially harmful to people, not just a waste of money. Now, I think most people, when they think of her and her website, they think that, you know, apart from things like the jade egg and the vaginal steaming, most of it is pretty harmless. And she is all about female empowerment. And if she does something wrong or she's misleading, it's just because she doesn't understand what she's doing and she's not actually trying to harm anyone. But then I came across something like this. Now, this is a product that interestingly cannot be bought in the UK. It is only available on her American site. And it's called the Motherload. And it is a supplement specifically designed and specifically marketed for women who are trying to get pregnant or who are pregnant. And the controversial bit about it is that it contains 110% of, 110% of your daily allowance of vitamin A. Now, the NHS and the World Health Organization have categorically stated that women who are pregnant or trying to get pregnant shouldn't take vitamin A supplements because it is harmful to the fetus. Now, this is not just NHS, this is World Health Organization. So that covers her in America. So she knows, and her scientific advisors will know, that this supplement could potentially harm an unborn baby. But they're still selling it and they're still marketing it to mothers. And that I find really quite an abhorrent thing to do. So clearly her, you know, $90 a month for this supplement, which quite frankly, you could probably buy at Boots for a couple of pounds. And she is deliberately marketing it, and her desire for the money is overriding her desire to help women and to help babies. So categorically, that is about the money. And interestingly enough, when this Netflix article came out, an NHS chief publicly derided it. Now, I don't know of any NHS chief that's ever come out and done something like that. So I think in order for him to have done that, he must have been really, really quite upset about some of the things that she was pushing in this series. As I said, I never saw it. I don't have Netflix. But I've seen some reviews from people who, you know, whose opinions I trust, and allegedly it is as bad as I imagined it would be. But as I say, for NHS to come out and publicly condemn something, that must be quite something bad. So Gwyneth Paltrow, in conclusion, she's not a doctor. She has no medical qualifications. She is not qualified to give you advice on anything, nutrition, food. You know, if you trust her opinion on clothes or something like that, that's fine. And I would say, as a general rule, if there is somebody who is telling you there's an issue and then trying to sell you the cure for that issue, then generally speaking, you shouldn't be buying it from them, because they're telling you that something exists in order to sell their product. If you want to go on there and buy stuff, then that's fine, but don't imagine you've got some kind of perceived problem that needs to be cured by Gwyneth. She's an actress, but more importantly, she's a phenomenal businesswoman. Her website, as I say, has got a staff of about 80. She's got a turnover of $250 million a year. So she's in it for the money. She's not in it to help people. Would I recommend buying anything from Goop? I don't think I would. At best, it's vastly overpriced stuff that you can buy in the high street for an awful lot less. But at its worst, it is promoting pseudoscience. And some of that pseudoscience, I think, potentially is very, very harmful. It's promoting unobtainable lifestyles. It body shames people. It food shames people. It sells ideas and products that I think are downright harmful. So finally, I am not a doctor, but I have spent 20 years working in the NHS as a microbiologist, and I'm going to give all of the people out there with vaginas a little bit of advice. You don't need to do anything to look after your vagina. It is like a self-cleaning oven. It cleans itself, doesn't require any maintenance. It does not need to be cleansed or steamed or have crystals inserted into it to do anything. There is a very, very short list of things you should be inserting into your vagina. Firstly, a penis, if that's your thing, with the requisite consent. Secondly, specifically designed sex toys. And by specifically designed, I mean ones that have been made from medical grade materials that are easy to clean and aren't going to harbor any bacteria that might cause you harm. Some kind of sanitary product. Or finally, something that your doctor has prescribed for you. And that's it. Your bacteria is full of vagina. Your vagina is full of bacteria. And it's supposed to be. It's good bacteria. And if you insert things in there that shouldn't be there, it's going to disrupt the balance. It's going to allow bad bacteria to thrive. So please don't put anything in your vagina that isn't necessary. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tracey. That was great. We're going to take a few minutes break. Apologies for all the technical problems that we had this evening. I hope it didn't interrupt your experience too much and it ended up okay in the end. We'll be back in about 10 minutes. If you've got any questions, either put them in the comments here on the YouTube channel, find us on Twitter, email, Facebook, anywhere you send them, we'll find them. Thank you very much and we'll see you soon. Welcome back. So we're here with Tracey for some questions on Gwyneth Paltrow and the Goop Enterprises. So from Sean, Gwyneth Paltrow studied anthropology at the University of California. Do you think she's aware that she's selling bollocks?
I think she's well aware that she's selling bollocks. I think even if she didn't at the beginning, she has been taken to court and reported so many times by so many people that it can't have escaped her. It can't have escaped her at all. So I think she's a very good businesswoman. If she probably started with the best of intentions, with it being just a newsletter for her friends, but it can't have escaped her now. No.
Is it not like, I guess some people get so taken in by it that they're kind of through the looking glass and can't see reality anymore? You don't think she's one of those that is such a true believer that they can't see right from wrong anymore?
Oh, that's a good question. Possibly, but I think the money speaks for itself. I think if she was a true believer and she was doing it just for the good of women's health, then she wouldn't be trying to make $250 million a year out of it.
No, probably. So from Flo, why do we need to care if a rich woman makes money off her rich friends? Why do we not go, oh bless, and move on? Is there any risk?
Well, yes, there is. I mean, as I said in the talk, most of the stuff she's selling is just expensive rubbish. And if you want to spend £900 on a pair of shorts, then if you've got that money, then good luck to you. But some of the things she's selling are dangerous. So, the supplements for pregnant women, that is just against WHO recommendations. The jade egg thing, that was potentially very harmful. So she is doing a lot of harm, and it's an argument that you hear quite a lot with a lot of pseudoscience. What harm is it? But these things do harm. For most people there is no harm, but for the few people that it is harmful for, it can be very harmful, both physically and psychologically.
Well, I always think about the psychological impacts because I have chronic health problems myself, and that just false hope that some people will sell you. You think, oh, this supplement will cure me, and then you get your hopes up and think everything's going to be okay, and then you feel better for a few days, and then you get another flare and you feel like shit again, and they've just
and there's
raised
a lot
your
of
hope
people,
and crashed them.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who won't be going to their doctors thinking that they're going to cure themselves, and again potentially missing on proper treatment. So yeah.
But I always wonder about that with the US because they have to pay for all their healthcare. So does that kind of commercialize the whole thing and give legitimacy to more pseudoscience because it's kind of seen as the same? Whereas, when we have to pay for something, that's strange. So you only ever have to pay for pseudoscience or private treatment here.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I hadn't really thought about it in that sense. Maybe people in America can't afford to go and see a doctor. So however expensive her products are, it might still be cheaper. In fact, it probably is still cheaper than going to a doctor. I think in the UK, there is also, it's the other way round. I think with a lot of people, certainly I find it with things like homeopathy and chiropractors, because they're paying for something, they think they're getting a better service. So to them, it's almost like paying for private medicine. And because we don't pay for our NHS here, I think a lot of people don't value what we get. So they think if they're going to pay for something, then they're going to be getting a better treatment.
Yeah, and quite often they do get that time that the NHS can't afford to give, which is probably the most valuable.
Yeah, certainly.
So another one from Sean. Is there a risk that by highlighting the more problematic products, it simply promotes her brand and the less problematic products, but is still pseudoscience? So by highlighting the problematic things, are you just giving her more amplification?
Yeah, and that does bother me. That, as I said, she's a master of publicity and marketing, and we are talking about her. So yes, she is achieving what she wanted to achieve. In in the old adage, there's no publicity. No publicity. What is it? No publicity is bad publicity. And things like the candle that smells like my vagina, that is just pure marketing. And it was to get people talking, and we were all talking about it. So yeah, by talking about it, we are highlighting it, and that rankles. But
yeah, it does kind of seem like a bad PR playbook. Like Marsha's highlighted a lot before, these wild stories that get free publicity and they don't really have to try too hard. So like the woman that you spoke to at Teesside who was a true believer, is there any way to sort of respectfully talk to someone like that and make a difference and have an impact and try and sway someone over to the side of logic?
Oh, that's the $64,000 question, isn't it? I know there's a lot of work going on, certainly with anti-vax people, on how do you change somebody's mind. And it is very difficult to do, because with a lot of people, you can give them the facts and they just don't believe it, or you can present them with evidence, but they've always got a reasoning. It reminds me a little bit of religion. You say, well, if God was real, why did he do this? Oh, well, he works in mysterious ways we don't always understand. And that's a kind of get out clause. And I think a lot of the pseudoscience work, and that's their get out clause. There's no evidence because we can't prove it, but it's still working. And I don't know the answer to that. When somebody comes up with a way of persuading people, I'd love to hear it, because I've tried to persuade a lot of people, and I don't think I'm the right person to do it, because it makes me too angry.
Yeah, it's hard when you're a sarcastic bitch to be persuasive and nice. I've come across that problem myself.
Yeah.
Elaine and Dawn ask, any idea how she got into this?
I think it's just the California lifestyle, that that's where she's from, and as I say, her dad's somebody famous, so presumably she was brought up in that sort of bubble of Hollywood and California where these kind of things are rife. So it's probably just something that she was brought up with, and then she's taken it upon herself. And people genuinely believe that these things do work for them. And I don't, she's a beautiful woman. She's absolutely stunning looking, and she's got fantastic body. You see photographs of her, and but that's not down to eating mung beans. That's just good genes. So she's selling people, that image that you can look like me if you do what I tell you to. So yeah, I mean, I'm guessing it's just the environment she was brought up in, that little Hollywood bubble. I don't know.
Do you think she uses the psychology like with expensive wine of just overpricing things for that cachet and kudos?
I think so, yes. And I think there's a lot of people who are prepared to buy into that. There is an element of truth in you get what you pay for, but there's also an element of psychology in that, people who will spend a lot of money on something assuming it must be good. And yeah, as you say, I've had £100 bottle of wine and it tasted no better than a £20 bottle of wine to me. But just to a wine connoisseur, they're like, that's blasphemy. So yes, there's probably an element of that in there as well, definitely.
So this is basically an expansion of that question, but mostly related to the salmon. Apparently consumers will pay up to $1 more per pound for redder salmon because of the astaxanthin food colouring in the fish.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Again, we've kind of lost touch with what things should be like. So people who think that salmon should be pink, whereas if you look at wild salmon, it's not. It's a very pale pink rather than that artificial colour. It's kind of like the iron brew of the salmon world. I love iron brew. I do drink it. But yeah. I mean, I can imagine people would pay more for the product that they perceive as being better, even though in reality it's not. It's just a false sense of what they're getting.
I guess we can laugh at the irony of the same kind of people that pay too much for expensive salmon are the same kind of people who would complain lots about additives and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. That it made me laugh when I was looking at that, and I discovered it was just an E number, and that just made me giggle because they're the very people who are saying that we should be eating clean and not having artificial food coloring, and then they're actually selling it as a drink. So yeah.
Right. Well, I think we are struggling for any more questions. So if there's anything else that you can think of that hasn't been covered, I know there's some stuff recently in the news about her COVID things. Have you been reading about that or noticed anything about her COVID stuff?
I haven't personally. It didn't occur to me to look to her website for medical advice on COVID. I'm sure it's in there. I'm sure she's got an absolute shed loads of stuff there that she is going to make fake claims about. Probably not on her British website, probably just on the American one where she can get away with it a little bit easier. But again, judging by what we see on the news with the Americans and, saying it's against their constitutional rights to make them wear a mask and such like, they're probably lapping it all up.
On that note, I have a very groovy mask. There you go.
Nice. I do have one myself. I don't have it to hand. Oh, hang on. No. Bear with me a sec.
I encourage all Edinburgh Skeptics viewers to wear masks so that I can go back outside, because I do miss outside. I haven't seen it in a while. But me and another committee member are both shielding, so we're being extra cautious. So there we go. Of course, bats. What else? For those that don't know, Tracey is also a part-time, volunteer bat nurse and rescues bats on a regular basis, and sometimes brings them in to do talks for us.
Yeah, but wear your masks.
And you can follow Tracey on her Twitter. Is it at Bat Nurse?
Yes, the Bat Nurse.
The Bat Nurse. And Tracey is a fantastic human who donated an organ to a complete stranger, completely altruistically, because she's amazing. So I think that everyone needs to know that about you all the time. So so before she blushes and goes all red, I will say goodbye, and we'll see you in a few weeks for our next talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.